Hi guys, welcome back to my channel and welcome if you are new here. My name is Isra. Today I'm going to continue the part 2 of the series of talking about my time going to Japan and during Japan. If you've missed the part 1, you can check it out in the description box below. I arrived to Japan and I could not stop smiling. It was a timeline shift, honestly, when I was there. Again, at the time I was wearing the hijab and I really didn't feel ever out of place. But what was happening before that, it started like 3 years before, was the realization that the hijab was not me. And what I was wearing was not a reflection of what was inside. I believe the hijab is such a beautiful thing to wear if it feels in alignment. For me, it was not. I wanted to wear it because I thought God wanted me to wear it. I wore it so I can hide myself and hide that wild aspect of me, the sensual self. And the sensual self can come through with my words, with my appearance. A woman's sexuality, a woman's sensuality has been demeaned. It has been seen as a very low thing, which it isn't. It is actually a woman in her sexual power, in her sensuality, is a powerful key to a man's heart. So as soon as I got to Japan, there was a 3-day orientation in Tokyo, and oh my gosh, it was a lot. I was jet lagged for a good 3 weeks because it was non-stop being trained, being told about Japanese culture, what to be aware of, what not to do. That's a huge one. There's a lot of what not to do's in Japan, and I just felt like it was inevitable that I was going to make a mistake, and which I did. So about a week in, I got into my home, my new home in Japan, into the prefecture of Yamaguchi. My city was Iwakuni, and it was on the borders, close to the borders of Hiroshima. Honestly, I was just so happy that it was such a beautiful place, nature place in the countryside of Japan. And I was glad I was not in the city because it's overwhelming. I'm not used to the city life. I like quiet. I like plants. About 3 weeks in, there was the summer camp on an island for kids. And it was honestly such a enriching experience for me to interact with the kids. It was just different activities, English activities to help encourage students to learn English. There was this guy on the JET program, and I feel like he was put on my path in order for me to really wake up and to have the courage to do what in my heart I knew I had to do. So there was this turning point conversation I had with him. I was talking about how I was unhappy with the hijab and how it was not in alignment with where I wanted to continue in my life. And he told me, what if you took off the hijab, no one knows you here, and if you don't like that you took off the hijab, you could put it right back on and nothing will happen. And he was right, and I was like, that's so true. Then on August 27th, I decided to make that choice. August 27, 2014, I made the choice to take off the hijab, and I never looked back. I started my transformation. I realized a lot of what I was doing was not me. When you're on the path of discovering yourself and you start to let go of what's not in alignment, it's like you start to reveal another layer or layers of yourself you did not see before. And it's such a liberating feeling. The feeling of freedom. There's no exchange for it. Your freedom is priceless. I just started to feel a weight just coming off of me. And I started to reveal more and more of myself. But with that, there's a lot of pain that came through. A lot of pain. And this is when I started having my dark nights of the soul even more. Prior to Japan, I actually went through severe depression, the worst depression I've ever experienced. It was a depression where I just did not want to, trigger warning if you don't want to hear this, I did not want to talk, I did not want to move, I just did not want to live. And it was hard. And I started to ask myself questions when I was 23. This was when I took off the hijab, I was 24 years old. And it was a year after I had that severe depression when I took off the hijab, actually. What is it in my life that I was wanting to do and have not done? What is it that my soul is telling me to do? Because depression occurs because inside of you have not been listening. And it's the soul's way of screaming and saying, wake up. What are you doing? Come back to yourself. It's this rude awakening. And it's like the ground beneath you has been completely removed and you got to find yourself again. That for me was depression at that time. And it's been a wake-up call, honestly, whenever I go into this downward slump. It's like the red signal. Wake up, wake up. What are you doing? Come back to yourself. And we're not equipped to deal with our emotions. No one gives us the tools to deal with our emotions. And that's hard, especially in a society where suppressing your emotions is encouraged and is the way of life. But now we're coming back, and here in this space where I'm speaking with you, it's a space for you to understand that you are now free to feel, free to express, and that is not too much, never too much. So that's what started happening. I started resisting the emotions coming through in Japan. I thought if I traveled, the depression would go away. No, it came back very strong. I didn't know the anxiety, behind the anxiety, were emotions that wanted to be heard and to be acknowledged. It was my inner child crying, wanting to be heard. And the level of shame that I carried within me was so monumental. It took many years of going to healers, energy healers, having somatic work, which is body work, releasing through my voice, crying, screaming, allowing myself just to fully embody the emotion. I had a lot of resistance around that. A lot of dark nights of the soul, but I was able to transmute a lot of it. But most of it was transmuted after Japan, actually. 1 year into my time in Japan, this was October 2015, I was shown that it was time for me to leave, but I didn't leave. And that, going against myself, ended up in a really bad way, really. But ultimately, there's always learning experiences from it. So I'll continue in part 3. Thank you so much for watching. Comment below with whatever video you'd like me to make. I look forward to seeing you very, very soon with part 3.